My process for this project started pretty broad, and I worked my way down to being more specific through various levels of feedback and cutting back. But I started my project looking at this gradient from not familiar to very familiar. So basically not familiar with physical activity to very familiar with physical activity. And I used this in my preliminary research where I was just talking to real people that I knew about how they worked out and why they worked out and things that they used and where they lied on that spectrum of familiarity. Through that research, interviewing 3 people in their physical activity, I noticed a trend of low impact fitness, so I decided to focus on that, and then specifically low impact fitness in the water. So once I decided on low impact fitness in the water as a tract, I developed these 3 different personas, I developed these 3 different personas, all 3 of them being interested in a different type of low impact water fitness. And then I placed them on that same scale from not familiar to very familiar. My first user journey was Anita, and basically she is 3, she's in preschool, and she just wants to learn how to swim without her mom and dad's help so she can play with her friends properly. I mapped out Anita's journey from unfamiliar to very familiar, so how you would get somebody to that point and what steps it would take, and hers pretty much involved telling her parents, enrolling in the class, meeting at the class, and then I mapped out her emotions along that journey. So she's excited about starting, but then she gets nervous when she's about to start class. But then once she finishes the course, she becomes confident. I also looked at specific things that she might need, like floaties, toys, and goggles to complete that activity. And then I did some basic research on what types of things she would be doing in that activity. She lies in the swim starters section, so she would basically learning things like how to blow bubbles, how to do a front toe, how to do a front float. Shelby was different, same gist of mapping out the emotions and giving a breakdown of why she wants to do lap swimming. Did some research on some just quick tips on how to be polite when you're lap swimming, and then I did the same for Lisa. But after some feedback from the class, when I presented all 3 of these user journeys, we kind of decided that it was too much for me to be focusing on 3 different types of physical activity, and that I really needed to pick one specific area. So I decided to go with Anita's journey. I picked it because I thought it would be interesting for me to work in the context of small children, and it was something very simple. I'm not asking for too much. I'm just trying to figure out how to get a small child that's never been acquainted with the water into being somewhat acquainted with the water, and then hopefully that would spiral into being motivated to do physical activity because it's fun. So after I knew that I was going to focus on Anita, I started to develop what that actual intervention would be, or how I would get someone like Anita to become a more confident swimmer or to be motivated to be in the water. So I came up with Swim Start. And this was, what you're seeing here is my system of interventions. So I basically came up with this kids program that they would use before they get to the pool or before they get to their first swim class. It would help them get ready for that moment so that they can avoid pain points like Anita did in her journey where she's nervous. Try to alleviate some of that nervousness that she would be feeling. So basically, someone would, to expose her to Swim Start, someone would recommend to the parent the program. They would download the app, specify their child's needs or what their skill level is, and place the order, receive the kit. And then to implement the program, they would open the kit, read the story, play the song, do a bath time exercise, and then record the progress, and then continue that loop until the goal is reached. And then applying what they've learned, that's when you enroll at the partner pool. The pool will read the same story at class, you arrive there, the instructor plays the same song, you complete the course, and you become a more confident swimmer. So my actual intervention lies in this implement phase mostly. But basically, the premise is utilizing bath time, which is the only exposure small kids have to water before they enter the pool. Utilizing bath time as a way to help learn basic swim skills that lie within the swim starters section, as the YMCA describes it. So this is a quick look at some of the different I guess you'd call them deliverables, or things that I was thinking about making for this program. So I was struggling with some type of physical kit, thinking about like a storybook, or like a paper progress recorder, some goggles, maybe a costume, all of those very physical things. I knew that there would be some type of digital app that would allow you to like order the kit and then specify what skill level your kid is, and I identified the different skill levels as guppy, which is low, dolphin, medium, whale, high. I didn't want the characters that they would be assigned to be very gender specific, so I kept it pretty low key. And I also figured that a progress recorder would be on the app too, as well as physically in the kit. The coloring book, it started out as a coloring book, but it morphed into something else. But basically, the premise of the coloring book is just there would be a piece in the kit that would contain sort of the story aspect of the program. Basically, it would be a way to get the kids to be interested in what they're learning. However, the main component was definitely going to end up being the song, and I basically decided that the best way to get the kids to learn these basic skills is through a simple song. And when I first came up with the idea, I was like, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to make my own song? But then after speaking with my mom, who's a preschool teacher, she said, well, you should just use a song that's already familiar to the kids. So I thought, okay. So I decided, I landed on the song, or the tune, Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush, which is also the same tune as Wheels on a Bus. And it's a very simple pattern. I kind of mapped the pattern out, but each verse is the same tune, and you can change the verse for a different action. So here in this example that I pulled up, like, this is the way we wash our face, wash our face, wash our face, and then the next verse is, this is the way we put on our clothes, put on our clothes. So you can pretty much change the lyrics to teach them whatever you want. So I came up with a couple different examples. So one would be like, now it's time to learn to swim, learn to swim, learn to swim, and blowing some bubbles or flipping some fins or whatever that may be. So I knew the song would be a major component. As far as logo iterations, what I was working with, I got feedback from Jay, where originally, as you can see on the program, the system of interventions, I was going with a much more childlike typeface, but Jay said that the nature of my program was childlike enough, so I could go with a little bit more of a mature typeface to appeal to the parents. So I landed on Mr. Eves Sans OT, and then I modified it a little bit and rounded out the edges just a tad to make it more friendly. But in the end, I decided on this last logo iteration here at the bottom with the 3 bubbles. So the final deliverable is a video. So I started trying to hash out how I could show the story, and I knew that I was going to need to animate it because I can't film a real life kid in the bathtub. So I knew I was going to have to do animations, and to keep it simple, I needed to pick like 2 scenes to use. So I knew I was going to have an underwater scene and a bathroom scene. So like a guppy scene, and then a scene with Anita. Went through a couple iterations of trying to what's the best way to draw the fish, what actions I'm going to make them do, all those types of things. But what I landed up with was this ocean scene that I animated in the final video where the fish is blowing bubbles, and then this bathroom scene where Anita would be blowing bubbles. And then I created a couple screens for the app, one screen being where they would play the music video, so the storybook turned into just like an interactive music video, the screen where they could track Anita's progress, and the screen where they could specify their child's needs. And I pretty much used these two scenes and the screens to make my whole video. Other than that, I didn't use much else in the video. But yeah, this project took quite a big turn. Started out very broad and then got very specific and very cute extremely fast. So.